Picture this. The year is 1991. You're driving around and you realize you need to get gas. So you pull up to the local quick stop, hop out of the car, and head inside. And while you're waiting for the cashier to finish up their conversation with the person in front of you, you notice something. Something by the cash register. Something a bit odd. It looks like a pack of baseball cards. It's got all the right dimensions, and it even says Topps. But as you move closer, you see what's written on the package. It says, Operation Desert Storm. In all fairness, it really wasn't that strange for the time. By 1991, trading cards were nearly 100 years old. Over that time, they went from only baseball to include other sports and eventually a wide range of non-sports cards. Cards had become somewhat of a basic unit of culture in an era where there was no internet. They provided little facts and tidbits of information about TV shows, movies, cars, historical events, and so much more, all wrapped together with the images on the front. Operation Desert Storm trading cards were no exception to this. Cards featured snapshots of every aspect of the war, from the beginning to the triumphant return home, from the people to the places and to the technology. These cards provided an interesting look into the Gulf War. However, I feel like not many people know what happened during Operations Desert Shield and Storm, unless they were alive at the time. So to give a brief rundown of Operation Desert Storm, I have Dr. Volker Kraus, a professor of political science at Eastern Michigan University.
We know that Iraq invaded Kuwait in early August 1990, and part of this, of course, had to do with Iraq trying to get control over the oil supply. And it's also notable that the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait came within about 2 years after the end of the Iraq-Iran war, and where Iraq pretty much had fought a costly war, ultimately I think to a stalemate against Iran, and then ran into high debt and had to pay ultimately the debt off, and so they thought they needed to pay off their war debt ultimately through the sale of oil. So that's why they then tried to get control over, push their way, make their voice heard, or make their guns heard, actually, literally, by then invading Kuwait.
Dr. Kraus also explained that the Gulf War was split into two parts. The first being Operation Desert Shield, which was named because of its goal, to protect Saudi Arabia from any Iraqi aggression. And the second part being Operation Desert Storm, which started with a short bombing campaign, followed by a relatively short ground invasion. And the invasion was any general's dream. Quick, easy, effective, and cheap in terms of lives lost. Along with being an amazing military victory, it was also a massive diplomatic feat.
And then the diplomatic efforts, bringing together a coalition, such a diverse coalition from all around the world, and especially several Arab states, considering that they usually stood with Iraq.
Yeah.
But in this case, clearly they sided with us, so we got Iraq pretty much isolated. And then on the Security Council, for that resolution to pass, even the Soviet Union then actually voted, not only abstained, they voted actually in support of us.
There's so many more fine details we didn't even get to touch on. So to sum it all up, here's George Bush Sr. speaking to the nation.
Tonight in Iraq, Saddam walks amidst ruin. His war machine is crushed. His ability to threaten mass destruction is itself destroyed. His people have been lied to, denied the truth. And when his defeated legions come home, all Iraqis will see and feel the havoc he has wrought. And this I promise you, for all that Saddam has done to his own people, to the Kuwaitis, and to the entire world, Saddam and those around him are accountable.
Do you know the story at the beginning? It's what I would call the collector's tale. and it's based on a true story from someone who I would consider to be an expert on Desert Storm trading cards. His name is Austin, and he runs a website called DesertStormTradingCards.com. Austin explained to me over email how he became intrigued by these cards and eventually got hooked. Like any good collector, he had to complete the set. And he wasn't alone on this. All over the country, these cards were selling like hotcakes. I found a 1991 article from the Beaver County Times which detailed the stories of some shop owners in the area, many of them claiming they sold out within hours or days of getting the cards, and a lot of these people were not your typical card collectors. They were military personnel or regular people who wanted some memorabilia.
What are you doing?
You collect Desert Storm trading cards?
Fuck yeah. Those things are collector's items, man. You have any idea how much those things are going to be worth one day?
Anyway, this wave of popularity outside of the trading card world paved the road for other companies to hop on the trend, and soon there were dozens of sets outside of the original top sets. Like what happens with any trend, the laws of supply and demand kicked in, and the market was saturated. This meant some of the latecomers to the party weren't able to reach the same success as Topps or Pro Set. There's something very American about this story, because only in America could you turn a military action in the Middle East into a popular trading card trend. Special thanks to Dr. Kraus and Austin from DesertStormTradingCards.com. Also thanks to my friend Will for helping with the music.